Nowadays, Barolo is considered a great world-class wine. Each year, a good 40 million bottles like this one find their way to 150 countries around the globe, and the number of enthusiasts is continually rising. To understand the reasons behind this success, one needs to hark back to the earliest days of Barolo. Here we discover a wine of ancient and noble lineage, deeply interwoven into the historical and political affairs of its territory, the Langhe, and its country, Italy. It will be an exciting and adventurous ride. Make yourselves comfortable. First of all, the grape. Barolo is entirely made from the Nebbiolo grape variety, grown within 11 communes of the Langhe, in Piedmont. We are just a bit south of the city of Alba, and the total extension of the Barolo area is approximately 2,000 hectares. The origin of the name Nebbiolo is suggestive. It could derive from the whitish wax covering the grapes, or from the late period of ripening, when the hills are already wrapped in fog, which in Italian is nebbia, hence Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo is often associated exclusively with the Langhe, but despite its real and particular attachment to the territory, the grape variety can also be found in bordering regions of the Aosta Valley and Lombardy. And let's not forget that the Nebbiolo grape is also used to produce other prestigious wines, such as Barbaresco, Roero, and Gattinara. Viticulture goes back to ancient times. Passing along the consular roads, the Roman legions were responsible for cultivating grapevines as a way of supplying their troops who were occupied with the ongoing conquest of the Gaul. It is an historical fact that the Roman Emperor Publio Elvio Pertinace, born in present-day Alba, granted uncultivated plots of land to be used for wine growing and exempted them from taxation. After the fall of the empire and throughout the Middle Ages, it was entirely up to the bishops and monks to preserve the culture of grape growing, and all the while the area was prey to repeated invasions. The name Nebbiolo appears for the first time in the Statutes of La Morra in 1511 as a vine deserving of special protection. That the grape was considered precious is proven by the punishment meted to those caught cutting the vines without permission, amputation of the right hand, and even hanging. And so we reach the 1800s, an epoch of revolution and upheaval. Regarding Barolo, there were three key figures, the most important of whom was a French noblewoman, Juliette Colbert, renowned philanthropist and wife of Tancredi Falletti, last Marchese di Barolo, and owner of larger estates between Barolo, Serralunga, and La Morra. She's the one who gave the name of the town of origin, Barolo, to the Nebbiolo produced in the cellars of her castle. Then, in the nearby township of Grinzane, in his capacity as mayor, there was Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, future Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Italy. Cavour also dedicated himself to the wine, summoning from France the famous enologist Udard. The devout Catholic Marchesa and the notorious womanizer Camillo found ways to collaborate, and the quality of their wines soon convinced the sovereign of the House of Savoy, Carlo Alberto, to pledge his support. It is thanks to him and his son Vittorio Emanuele, the first king of Italy, that a concerted effort was made to bring it to the attention of the other royal courts. It is in this period that Barolo was first hailed as the king of wines and the wine of kings. As Barolo began to find its way to the Americas, from America devastating blights arrived and spread across Europe, particularly the phylloxera, which laid waste to most of the old continent's vineyards. Then the two world wars overwhelmed everything, Barolo included. The reconstruction was slow and difficult. While the younger generations found employment with Fiat of Torino or Ferrero of Alba, the elders kept up the wine-growing traditions. The novels by the Piedmontese authors Cesare Pavese and Beppe Fenoglio bear witness to the hardships of that period. The turnaround only came in 1966. Barolo was the first Italian wine to obtain the Denominazione d'origine controllata, raised in 1980 to Denominazione d'origine controllata e garantita. But now let's take a closer look at this Langhe area and try to understand why it is so well suited to the Nebbiolo grape variety. The name Langhe derives from lingua, Latin for tongue, owing to the long and narrow form of the hills. Their origin dates back to Miocene epoch, when the thrust of the African tectonic plate caused the Alps and the present-day Po Valley to emerge from the sea. For millions of years, therefore, the Langhe area was either fully submerged or a marshland, until, eventually drying out, the hills took on their present-day forms. We're talking about 1.5 million years ago, but in geological terms, the lands are actually quite young. At the morphological level, they are devoid of rocks and subject to landslides, because rich in calcareous blue or white marl, a material impermeable to water. In the western part of the Barolo zone, which falls under the communes of La Morra and Barolo, there is a prevalence of blue marl, which engenders elegant and fragrant wines. In the eastern half, falling under the townships of Castiglione Falletto, Serralunga and Monforte, the sandstone gives rise to more austere and robust wines. In any case, both zones bring about wines that are richly complex and capable of aging. The local climate is also a crucial factor. The Langhe is ideally situated at about 40 kilometers from the sea and 40 kilometers from the mountains, close to the 45th parallel. The Nebbiolo hills are rather steep and range in altitude between 200 and 500 meters. The amount of rainfall they receive is scant, and it is mostly concentrated in spring. Summer brightness is increasingly strong, triggering a greater need for protection of the grapes against excessive exposure. The biggest danger facing the grapes is hail, which occasionally, in the summer, can pelt the vineyards, but luckily only in circumscribed areas. The Nebbiolo growing season is long. It starts with bud breaking in early April and ends in late October with the harvest. The variety is vigorous and requires continual pruning and thinning, operations that are entirely carried out by hand. More than 300 estates are operating in the Barolo area, mostly artisanal and of medium-small dimension. Each confers to its wine a personal touch, melding history and modernity. If in the 90s there was much debate regarding the style of winemaking, with particular reference to the small French barriques or the larger Slavonian oak botte, today's prevalent approach marries the best of the new techniques with the spirit of tradition. At present, great attention is directed towards highlighting the taste and aromatic characteristics of the vineyards of origin, the so-called cru. In the Langhe, this technique was already used in the late 1800s by several small producers to set themselves apart from the major winemakers who were skillful at mixing grapes from different sub-areas as to create a homogeneous product year after year. The single vineyard philosophy was further developed by my father, Renato Ratti, starting from the mid-60s, both through the production of Barolo from a single vineyard and with the realization of the first map of the historical vineyards, which outlined the 44 ideally suited sub-areas and set forth a classification system based on the Burgundy qualitative model, with vineyards of first and second category. The charting work was acknowledged almost half a century later with the official map of Barolo of 2010 that includes 170 menzioni geografiche aggiuntive, namely the single vineyards. And here we are at the end of our story. We have talked about the world of Barolo and the reasons why it is the great Italian wine. Made from a single grape variety, Nebbiolo, cultivation in small hillside vineyards, limited area and production, subdivision in single vineyards, complexity and great potential for aging. But above all, behind the success of Barolo, there is the human factor. Tradition, experience, and know-how renewed by generations of artisan winemakers who through the epochs were able to perfect a fine balance with their territory. If today UNESCO recognizes the wine-growing hills of the Langhe as a World Heritage Site, we owe it to all those factors. Our duty is to make sure that the quality of the environment, the vines and the wine is always at the center of our efforts. This is the challenge we have received from our fathers, and this is the baton we pass to our children.